Hello, everyone. My name is Parisa Rad, or the Marijuana Mama, and welcome to the Doobie podcast. We're here today with my co-host, Arlie, also known as the CannaMom.
Hi. We are super excited to be here with our guest today. One, we've been wanting to have her for the longest time on our show just because she's going to be filled with so much valuable information. And she's a CannaMom, most importantly. She's been the principal and owner of her own law firm in Mesa, Arizona. She focuses her practice in representing tribal and non-tribal members in their private family dependency and criminal law matters. Has been working with small businesses and tribal governments respecting issues with the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act since 2010 and is the vice president of the Arizona Association. She was also appointed a judge pro tem in Maricopa County in 2020 and licensed to practice law first in California in 2004 and then moved to Arizona in 2006. She is also the past president of the Native American Bar Association of Arizona and taught a special seminar class in ASU Law School. So impressive. She serves on the board of directors, and she's the compliance officer for the United Food Bank, and also the past president of the Parents for Responsible Use and the board member for Mom Force USA.
Yeah. Mom Force. Shout out Mom Force.
Cool. In addition to all of that, she's also a badass CannaMom and a badass CannaNana.
Yes.
Welcome, Sonia.
Oh my God.
Hey,
Bow
hey,
down.
good afternoon.
Bow down.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yes. We're super excited to have you, Sonia. So right off the bat, why cannabis and why law?
Why cannabis and why law? Wow, that's those are some pretty broad questions, but a couple things. I have been a cannabis connoisseur for quite a long time, and I've also been interested in the law for a lot longer than I was interested in cannabis. But two things that I appreciate, two things that my life basically involves heavily, if you will. And so, I mean, I could be more specific on any of those areas, but
how has that been being a lawyer and then also facing the adversities of being like a canna parent? How has it been being like in those shoes outside of just being a lawyer as well?
Well, so I guess it depends on what year you're talking about. We're in 2024. So in 2024, it's a lot different than it was, for example, in 2004, when I did also, use and consume cannabis. If you asked me in 2004, what did it look like? I would tell you that I, like most other people, was in the quote unquote closet. It was not something that I talked about, not something that I, was
loud and proud as we are now today, right? It was.
Exactly.
Especially being in your shoes, being a person serving the law. I'm sure it was extra scary,
Extra scary.
Yeah.
And in particular, as a lawyer, we have an agency that regulates us and ethics and all those other sort of things. So to, be an admitted user of something that's illicit and illegal, probably not the smartest thing when when you're also a parent and you could face issues, involving the Department of Child Safety and things like that just from use. Again, I have always consistently throughout my time that I've used cannabis, I've always used it safely and responsibly, even when I was much younger. However, there's, you just never know when you're going to be in a situation where you have to answer some tough questions by some tough folks, if you will.
Let's take it back, actually. I love to hear your story of how you started using cannabis, because I know you've had a love for law since childhood, and it's always been kind of your why. You wanted to protect your community. You wanted to kind of help in that kind of regard.
Yes.
But then cannabis entered your life. At what age, and how did that play a factor in how your legal career kind of shaped up? Because I know it played a significant role in helping you get through legal school, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like a lot of people, cannabis for me started off quote unquote recreational, if you will. So I was a teenager, and as a teenager, I was, at the top of my class, A-type, academic decathlon, in sports and doing all that stuff. But I was also a teenager who had a lot of anxiety because I was A-type at the top of my class, et cetera, et cetera. And one day I was with friends who were smoking a joint. I enjoyed smoking that joint as well. And for the first time in a long, long time, I actually had my anxiety lessened to the point where I fell asleep, and I fell asleep throughout the night. That I remember the next morning waking up and thinking, oh my God, I slept through the night. Wow. Was it that marijuana? I think it was the marijuana. The very next day, I had a weed again. And guess what happened?
Slept like a baby.
You saw a pattern.
Exactly. I slept like a baby. And therefore, I started noticing the pattern. And I realized that marijuana was something that allowed me to rest and sleep. And although illicit and illegal, especially, as a teenager at the time, I'd had to be smart and careful about my use, et cetera, et cetera. And I was, like I said, I always was. That being said, if I think about it, throughout college, again, at the top of my class, straight A, et cetera, same with law school, at the top of my class. And I look back at my college years and my law school years. And when I was in law school, I was a single mother of a little toddler who's now, my God, she's 27.
Amazing.
But when I think about those years in school, I think about how cannabis actually helped, in the sense it caused me to, without having to use like medication or even go to therapy, quite frankly, I used it as a tool to keep calm, cool, and collected, to get myself successfully through college and law school at the top of my class and doing
as
all
a
the
single
things.
mom.
So impressive.
Wow.
Sonia.
All of that. But,
Your goals.
Did you face
She's
any
amazing.
stigma at home when you were using cannabis recreationally growing up?
So, yes, I did. And a funny little story about my mother, who's in her, early to mid 70s. My mother always called it shit. It was always shit. Actually, for my 18th birthday, I remember.
You were going to smoke the shit?
I did smoke the shit on my 18th birthday. And stupidly.
Probably some good shit, too, because it was a birthday. So you get good shit on your birthday.
It was the best shit. It was my birthday. So, I went all out. In my house.
Yeah.
In my house.
Oh, shit.
I could just hear my mom coming up the stairs all pissed, and she bangs on my door, and she throws $50 at me, and she goes, "Stop smoking that shit in the house. Go get more shit, you stupid ass, and happy birthday."
Oh my God, how good. So she actually bought your sack, I guess, right?
I mean, technically.
And was like, just please don't do it here. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but
that's pretty forward. She seemed really accepting.
Yeah.
She called it shit, though, up until I'd say about 10 years ago, when she started calling it stuff.
It upgraded to
we
stuff.
transitioned from shit to stuff.
Yes,
good.
yes. And sorry, Mom, I'm going to tell on you. But my mother has since had just a couple, once or twice. Once or twice, my mother, for sleeping, had an edible or two, just once or twice.
Yeah?
And she's like, wow.
That's awesome.
Wow. So it went from shit
to wow.
stuff.
To wow. I slept good on that.
To it working. Yeah, normally that's how it is. That's how my mom was
That's so
too.
cute.
It started with her really believing in cannabis when she put an ointment on her. And I was like, "Look, Mom, try this for your arthritis." And then ever since that, she had to try it on herself, and she was like, "I'm a believer."
I think the topicals are always like a good starter, because they aren't going to give you any type of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they'll create pain relief.
Exactly.
And it's
exactly.
like, oh, wow.
So maybe this shit does work.
Yeah.
And now it's stuff, and it's a wow.
Exactly. So my mom does not partake in a general sense, but the few times she has,
She's open to it. That's a huge
that's
step.
amazing, though. Yeah, that it hurt. She didn't have that much of a negative response to it.
Right.
My point.
So
Exactly.
cool.
My
That's
point
so
with
cool.
education, though, and education in part because at this point, she's like, well, shit. My daughter is not only a successful lawyer who runs her own law practice, she's also a part-time judge. Well, I guess that marijuana did not negatively affect her as much as I thought it would.
Right.
I guess.
Right.
Bad.
I mean, you're successful. There's not a much she can say at this point, seeing her daughter turn into the beautiful, amazing leader of your community that you are. So impressive, Sonia. I'd like to take it a little bit more current now, what does responsible cannabis use look like for you now, in the state of Arizona, as us being moms, working moms, what does that look like for our viewers out there listening and watching? What is a responsible CannaMom look like? what steps should we
And
take?
how has it changed in Arizona since the time you've been in law?
God, it's changed so much, and what it looks like now, it's kind of like what I said. It looks very different from it did in 2004 when you're in the closet. You don't really have people you're consuming with unless it was your best friend from college and you both knew you consumed cannabis, type thing. You're not out there as a lawyer meeting friends and socializing or using cannabis. I've always pretty much been using cannabis at home type of person. Have I ever used cannabis at a public event? Quite frankly, yes, I have. When I do so, do I make sure that I either have an Uber or a Lyft, or that I'm not impaired driving, things like that. Yeah,
That
for
you
the
do so
but for the
responsibly.
most part, I'd say probably about 90% of my cannabis use is at home, primarily at night. I think it's changed throughout the years, especially now I'm in my late 40s, and I ask myself, quite frankly, things like, I'm in my late 40s. Why do I use cannabis now? What's the point and purpose of me using cannabis now? I know I used it in my later teens. I know I used it in college and in law school. Why am I using it now? And what do I need it for? It's those types of questions that have actually changed how I smoke, when I smoke, the amount I smoke. I rarely, if ever, use concentrated marijuana because I just don't need it. It's just too much for me. So I don't dab, things like that. Don't get me wrong. If somebody offers me a dab, would I probably, I'm not saying, but,
I'm not
but,
turning dabs
I'm
down
not
around
turning dab,
here.
but I do not go spend my money on it. I don't buy
Right.
it.
And it's constantly evolving for you, is what it sounds like.
And I think the most responsible, to answer your question about being a responsible CannaMom, is really asking yourself, not just doing it out of habit,
Right.
and like, oh, you did that. It's just, I'm using cannabis. What's my point? What's my purpose? Because I don't know if you ladies ever did.
Being
Have you ever done this?
intentional with your cannabis use.
Yeah, because have you ever done it to where you have your cannabis out and you're like, and
What am I
you
doing?
don't actually smoke
Yeah.
it, and you're like,
Or I'm like, I don't even need to smoke this right now. I'm feeling pretty good.
That's
That's
what I
happened to
mean.
me a few times where I'm like
Right.
in the evening, I'm like, actually, I don't need it right now.
Where it starts to
So-
feel like a routine.
That's what I'm
Right.
talking about. That's I think that's the most responsible cannabis use, is to just
so right.
be intentional about it. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And that's just true for anything and everything, right? But no, for cannabis in particular, yeah. And I think I'll be quite frank. I think for the younger listeners, don't get me wrong. I'm sure a lot of them are mentally, emotionally there. I think with time and age and just maturity, you just start to think different ways, a little bit different,
And it's just the way you move. Like, also, like, out of the money, like, do I need to smoke all day long, or am I using it as a way to treat an anxiety or a certain type of being intentional again with it, Not just smoking to smoke, though. I guess that's the difference, right? At some point, you also have to be responsible with your finances and look at how you're spending your day and your time and your energy. So,
And I think that's a conversation that's not really talked about a lot either. I think it's really important to, like how we were saying, to always be self-aware. Always
Right.
being self-aware and knowing, what your intention is in that moment with it. Do I
Yeah.
really need it? Is this a tool? Is it a crutch?
right.
Do I really need to be smoking right now? Or
The answer is yes.
I not
if
really
you're
need it?
me. No, I'm just kidding.
or
those, because
Yeah.
I thought for a long time it'd be, especially because
And the
my
guilt.
entry to and the guilt, like what that, it's but self-awareness, you creates a lot of guilt because you start thinking about stuff, right? You
Right.
start feeling the feels, and I think that's kind of what we're talking about. Sometimes we use cannabis to ignore and escape, but sometimes we use it for treating
Healing.
or healing.
Like you said, using it in lieu of a therapist. I think that a lot of times I could relate to that, not having the bandwidth for even getting to a therapy session, but having a moment to smoke real quick so I can get my shit together so I'm not stressed overboard or overload, or like highly focusing on something that's negative and being able to focus on something else. You know what I mean? And compartmentalize better.
Absolutely. So just, again, being intentional, mindful, and respecting yourself and the plant.
Right.
Because the plant is there to heal you. It's just like garlic. But you don't need garlic every day, do you?
Yeah, right.
You know what I
if you're
mean?
Yazzie, you do. She puts it on everything, dude. I'm like, oh my God, are you going to put it on your ice cream next? She's like, I would. I'm like, ew, who are you, weirdo?
Good old
My daughter
Yazzie.
loves garlic.
I love garlic. Dude. I could literally eat it
Dude,
like that.
she
But
just
it's
is
so
like
good for you,
beans and
too.
garlic for breakfast. Like, who does that?
Oh my God.
Somebody who likes beans and garlic, and
Someone who's also consuming
Vampires.
cannabis, because you like to like pair weird things together when you're like, maybe that would taste good together.
I was about to ask, is she's still using cannabis?
She
correct?
is, yeah. She's still using cannabis, and it's a great tool for her in her toolbox of modalities that we're using. So it's a mix of Western medicine and natural medicine, and also just finding other ways for Yazzie to release some of that past trauma, through friendship, conversations. Her dog was a great tool too. Dog therapy.
Nice.
God
Please,
rest her
Layla.
soul. Yes, we had to put Layla down a week ago, so that was tough. But
Oh my! But I
Yeah.
remember Yazzie back in the days. I was much younger, but Yazzie was much younger, and her starting to experiment with the different types of cannabis
Yeah.
and all the things that as a parent you had to go through, as a CannaMom you had to
Yeah.
go through, just all of those different things.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy, but being a parent
It
and
really wasn't, but there's more tools to help you as a patient navigate that, I think, than there are as a mom using it as a way to release maybe some other things going on, anxiety, stress. And I feel like when I first met you, Sonia, it was like one of the first times I had ever in real life met somebody that I could look at as a role model in that sense. Like, wow, not only are you super successful, well-spoken, smart, educated, amazing, brilliant mom, you're also a cannabis consumer and you use it safely, responsibly, and you speak about it in such a way that like really empowered me to be like, I don't have to be shamed anymore or feel like I need to be in some kind of canna closet.
Right,
Although
the
I'm
closet.
advocating for my daughter's use, which everybody can see she clearly needs, but what about my use? You know what I mean? I was still in a way feeling shame around my use. And so that empowered me to be like, wow, I could be loud and open and honest about it and not be looked at as just like a loser mom,
And,
like
oh,
because of
man.
you. Yeah, I just
And
want you
that's
to know
funny.
that.
I-
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. You're making
I'm
me blush.
I'm gonna get emotional.
No, it's beautiful to see the ripple effects like
Yeah.
that of seeing one, how being loud and proud about something like that can really reach someone that you might not even know.
Seriously,
Oh,
you
is
really
that
did.
my phone? It could be
Good,
my
because
phone.
that ended my crying moment.
I-
I was gonna-
How important would you think it is for parents to know about the cannabis laws here in Arizona in order to be a responsible parent?
I think it's absolutely critical if you are a parent to understand the medical marijuana laws, but also the adult use laws, and really get an understanding of the differences between the two, and also how it affects you and your family. I highly always suggest to any parent that does consume that they, just like Parisa had mentioned a little earlier when Parisa said there's some additional protections, that's true. There are additional legal protections if you're a medical marijuana patient. So if you are a parent that consumes, is it highly recommended and is it a best practice to have a medical marijuana card? Yes, absolutely. Should you consume without it? I mean, if you consume without it, you consume without it. It's just you literally have additional legal protections in court. Literally.
And have you literally seen that actually save
Transpire.
women in situations, mothers who have been in a situation where they're caught up in a legal situation, and because they have the card, it's helped them get through that
Absolutely.
situation? Okay.
Both
Perfect.
both
They'll save you money,
both
guys.
mothers and fathers have I've represented both mothers and fathers in both family court, but also dependency court. Dependency court is what I call, just colloquially naughty parent court. Your children are taken away, not necessarily because you're naughty, but basically a parental fitness issue. So here's the thing, though, folks. We're always trying to get ahead and always trying to make sure we're not just caught up, but get ahead. And what I'm talking about is, yes, I've noticed the difference over the years. In particular, again, it depends on the timing. So we now have adult use. Prior to adult use, though, we only had the Medical Marijuana Act,
Right.
and you had a card or you didn't have a card. And as a parent, I really saw it real then. It's becoming a little blurred now with adult use because a lot more judges are becoming more familiar with it and pretty much putting in the general guidelines to be safe and responsible. As long as you're safe and responsible, most judges, won't have an issue with you. At the same time, though, if your ex has a fierce lawyer, especially a fierce lawyer who hates marijuana, you're going to have issues. I've had that happen. But also trip out on this. Like I said, times are a-changing. So what I'm also seeing a lot of now is how the government.
This episode is brought to you by Toasted. If you're looking for premium cannabis experiences that blend style and community, Toasted has you covered. They're all about celebrating the cannabis culture with quality products and an inclusive vibe, offering everything from strains to stylish merch. Whether you're a seasoned enthusiast or just curious, Toasted makes it easy to enjoy responsibly. Check them out at ilovetoasted.com and elevate your experience by getting your hands on the only XXL jars around.
Government, if you will, kind of is fighting back a little bit in these proceedings and starting to diagnose a lot of people with cannabis use disorder.
What? I didn't even know that was a thing. Tell us more about this.
Cannabis use disorder.
What?
So
I must be guilty of it.
And that's if you're in dependency court.
No, I'm just kidding. It's like a disease or something.
I mean, they kind of
I'm
are.
positive for it.
I'm positive for cannabis, but not cannabis use disorder. And
okay, what is it? Sorry.
So we're just talking about how times are changing, and so as we move forward with this, and more people are using it, cannabis use disorder. What will happen is if a parent is in dependency court, the court where the Department of Child Safety has taken your children, if you will, if you're in that court and they've, they're working with you as a parent to get back to being the fittest parent you can for your children. If one of the issues they have with you is substance abuse, and as part of substance abuse, that your issue is cannabis. Now, let me be clear. Let me back up and say that your typical dependency case doesn't involve cannabis and cannabis only. There generally are some other issues involved. But
alcohol, drugs, hard
domestic violence, a whole variety of neglect, abuse, a whole variety of different things. So I have rarely, if ever, I don't know if I can't even say that I've seen a cannabis only case, but cannabis is involved. What they'll do is they'll assess the person, give them a psychological exam. That's what most parents have to go through anyway, psychological exam. And your typical parent with marijuana, they're coming back with diagnoses of cannabis use disorder, which basically says you use it a lot, and because of that, you're in a headspace and a mind space, and it creates behaviors in you that cause you to basically neglect your children.
Wow.
And don't get me wrong, there's other pieces of it. There's other pieces of it.
Maybe I'm not positive for that.
How do they even define something like that?
Having the person answer a whole bunch of questions, multiple
toys.
Like
neglect is the issue, and cannabis is just part of the play. And so, you know what I mean? The bad rap for the parents' neglect. Get what I'm saying?
Yes, correct. Right. Because in reality, a lot of this neglect is due to mental health,
right, or something else,
and the person is using cannabis to
help with their issues,
mental health, and it's not necessarily helping, or maybe it is,
maybe they need more,
or maybe it is,
whatever,
but it's not coming out in the right way, and kind of you get the overall picture, and
you bring a good point,
that's so crazy though.
But that's what's
happening currently. You're seeing that
I've never
as a current
seen
trend.
more cannabis use disorder diagnoses in the past 2 to 3 years, and then I think it's kind of pairing along with the adult use.
Wow.
But again,
maybe just because more people are open about their cannabis use because now it is legal.
Is that just a
That's
term?
exactly what I'm thinking.
Is that just like a legal term, Sonia, or is that like a scientific term?
It's now a scientific term, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, it's coming up on your psychological exams. Exactly. So, but again, it's kind of like what Parisa said. There's other, and like what I said, there are other things going on in the family, whether it's domestic violence, mental health, other substance abuse, and then you just by also chance use cannabis.
It's getting you're blaming it on the cannabis. Basically,
yeah, but to be clear, your typical call is not, hey, that parent's using cannabis. It's, the kid hasn't been to school in 12 days in a row.
Right.
We checked their house, and you know, there's other things. So that's what's going on. Again, the point is, for every step we take, there's another step coming, at us from a different direction, and we just kind of have to figure out how to merge and mesh those paths and but at the same time, make sure that it is understood, and we have lawyers and other people and advocates who go to these courts. I've seen advocates go to these courts to help support parents, educate lawyers and judges on these issues. Because I'll be quite frank, as a lawyer, I've used it against parents that I felt were not safe and responsible. Yeah, Your Honor, that blowtorch right there on the coffee table with their 2-year-old, not very safe.
Right, dumbass.
And that's
Put the
agreeable.
torch
I think
away.
anyone that is
Jeez.
responsible with cannabis would
With
agree.
young children. It's like,
Right, that there are boundaries like that should be in place and should
absolutely.
be just common
Safety
sense.
should always be number one.
Right. And do you see a lot of stigma with cannabis in the courts, even right now in 2024, Sonia?
The stigma is it's lessening a bit, but it's still absolutely there, 100%. There are still judges on the bench that absolutely hate cannabis, that are from the DARE era and think that cannabis is the gateway, to other drugs versus the gateway off of drugs, which a lot of us now know cannabis is a gateway off of some other drugs.
Yeah. Right.
So the stigma is still there, but it's not. It's getting a little better in time. But I'll be quite frank. That's political science. Political science tells you that society moves slowly, cautiously, moving forward. When you have drastic major change in society, that's when shit gets a little weird. So what I'm seeing is, I think, in line kind of with political science and society and how it moves, the trends. People are becoming far more accepting. Yeah, but I'll kid you not, like 5 years ago, I still remember the judge who literally just yelled at a client of mine and myself on a criminal matter where we were resolving the matter. It was like, Your Honor, could you make it any more obvious how much you hate marijuana?
Right.
Like, wow.
You're really biased here.
Wow.
Wow. Out of line, huh?
Yeah, very much so. But it is getting better slowly with time. But I also think slowly, I think with the adult use, I think what's happened is some of the other stuff that I'm talking about, the not so fabulous stuff. When it was medical, it's one thing to look at it medically, and there's this, that, and the other. I think with adult use, what I've kind of seen, what's happened over the past couple of years with adult use, there's a lot more partying involved, if you will, a lot more seemingly unsafe behaviors, if you will. And so I think when the non-consuming public sees things like that, then and it's like, huh. But at the same time, we're people. Be who you want to be. Do what you want to do.
Right.
But you're still. I think your average person doesn't like cannabis use while driving. But at the same time, in courts, you ask about stigmas. At the same time, in courts, ask any criminal defense lawyer who does marijuana DUIs. There's not a lot of convictions happening. And when you're testing for blood and DUIs in particular, since we're talking about that, a marijuana DUI, they're going to test for inactive versus active metabolites. If it's an inactive metabolite, it means you have consumed in the past 30 days. They don't charge you if it's inactive. They look for active marijuana metabolites. It comes out different scientifically, chemically, it comes out different. That's when they charge you, because ostensibly with active metabolites, you have consumed within a very short window of time prior to the blood taking, so 3 to 7 hours. So ostensibly you're still high because you had just consumed just several hours before. That's the theory.
And that's scientifically possible, Sonia? Because I know a few years back, cops didn't really have a way to measure.
No, active versus inactive. But then when you get active metabolites, then they come out with a number, a nanograms per milliliter. In Arizona, there is no mandatory number like Colorado or Maine have, where if you have like a 0.2 nanograms per milliliter of cannabis, you're automatically assumed to be impaired. We don't have that. Arizona doesn't have that magic number. Some states do. Arizona does not. So it's a totality of the circumstances, which is why, as I said a minute ago, a lot of juries are finding people not guilty when it comes to the marijuana impairment. People are like, yeah, so they were consuming, but their driving behavior did not suggest that they were impaired.
Behavior.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Now,
and that's also, see, that becomes confusing, because if I'm treating cannabis throughout the day for like my anxiety or pain or whatnot, but then I still have to go drive somewhere, and I'm obviously still self-aware and not impaired, but if I get pulled over, I'm going to come out with active.
You were swerving for a whole minute? You know what I'm
I
saying?
see.
Maybe if I'm on my phone and texting and driving. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just being real.
But
you
no,
know
that's
what I mean?
real.
So,
That's real. It's a totality of the circumstances. So if the totality of the circumstances suggests you were impaired, cop says they were swerving, they actually hit a wall, bounced back,
Damn.
kept driving. No, believe me, I've seen it all. So it's a totality, not just
Not for a broken headlight.
or just hey, you
What if you get pulled over?
you
for a
like
broken
swerved, and they're like, oh, it must be because you're high. No, sir, I was looking at my maps, and then it's like your eyes are red, and then it's like, oh, well, because
and if your eyes are red,
cannabis,
but
and
if
I wear contacts.
Oh, I'm a Pisces.
Again, it's the totality of the circumstances.
Okay. I see.
So you act impaired, you sound impaired, you appear impaired, you're probably going to get charged for being impaired.
I got
But
it.
if you have like a broken headlight and you get pulled over for, let's say, like expired plates or whatever, and they pull you over and they see that you have your eyes are red, then that probably wouldn't stand as strong in court because you didn't get pulled over for anything impaired. It was just more of a logistic.
Yeah,
like a standard pullover.
The officer may not even further question or investigate you. It really all depends on. I mean, I've been pulled over with my eyes bloodshot red, not because I'm impaired, but for other reasons. I speak clear, and they're not trying to investigate.
They'll even
for
tell
DUI.
me you smell like marijuana. I'm like, yeah, I work in the marijuana industry, and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no further. I haven't been harassed. Thank God, knock on wood. That's never happened. But just curious because I'm sure other people are going to be in situations that are worried about potential situations.
Yeah, because there is this blurred line with it right now.
It's totally blurred. It's totally blurred, which is probably another aspect to the safe. Being a responsible CannaMom, right?
Right.
You're there. You're home. You got to go somewhere. You're really gonna go?
You can't.
If you just took a dab, are you gonna go? Versus, okay, I smoked a joint 2 or 3 hours ago. I totally feel fine. Or I smoked a dab and I totally feel fine. Know yourself. Know yourself. Check yourself. Be responsible.
Right.
Because I'll be quite frank. I know I've been home before and I'm like, hell no, I'm not driving.
I know. Especially after an edible hits. Dude, those are strong.
Like, nope.
Fucking edible hitting. I'm not going nowhere but my couch.
Nope.
No, I
my
am
bed.
like that. Where if I know I just freshly smoked, I won't drive because I get really paranoid and I'm like, I'd rather just not.
And for me, it's different because I use cannabis as a tool to kind of help me cope with my, day to day. So I don't feel necessarily impaired. It's not until like I've smoked a lot. Like if I take a couple hits, I'm like, this is maintaining my day kind of thing. I don't feel impaired. And so
How it's different for everybody is interesting.
It is different.
And that's quite frankly, like I said, Arizona doesn't have that specific nanograms per milliliter that shows automatic impairment because, quite frankly, it just doesn't make sense. A person who has 15 nanograms per like right now, Parissa's pulled over. She'd probably have 12 to 15 nanograms per milliliter, or maybe more, which seems like whoa. Versus someone who's never used, someone who's never consumed before, and had
Taylor
15
over here.
Taylor, if
Taylor's gonna come up 0.
Yeah, no. If Taylor had, if Taylor's not a consumer, and then Taylor had 15.
Oh, okay, just kidding. Maybe Taylor's not a good person to pick on, but
But so,
oh shit, he's high right now. Damn. All right. That's what I like to hear. No.
That's so interesting.
But at 15, for somebody who doesn't consume, that person will probably be passed out for a day.
Right.
Right.
True.
With the same. How
so it's all tolerance level. I had a DUI. I handled a DUI once where I then got my expert who, after looking at my client's blood, said, "Your client smokes every day, all day, right?" Because that's clear from the other numbers in the blood.
They can test all that, Sonia. They can know through our blood all of those details.
Basically,
Damn.
yeah. He's like, your client's a heavy consumer, daily, multiple times a day consumer. Yep.
Sounds...
So this 11 nanograms wasn't not impaired at all. Like,
oh wow.
So
that's how they were able to prove it. So that's good.
Blood numbers, but also
so
body
they could
cams.
see that she uses it all the time.
Right.
It's nothing.
Correct, as well as body cams. You know how many body cams I've seen of people that I'm like, wow, shoot, the body cam makes them looks like they're not impaired at all. So y'all still want to prosecute? You sure?
Right.
This is going to be shown to a jury. And like I said, juries are coming back with, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty.
So crazy.
I'm not trying to tell you to go consume and or smoke and drive, but I'm just saying, still be safe and responsible. But it is not easy. There's so many blurry lines in the law right now, and things are changing for sure. Sometimes, like I said, for the better, and then other times for ostensibly the worst, like the whole cannabis use disorder stuff.
Right. That's crazy. So new. I never knew about that.
I've never even heard of that. So it's interesting to see, like, or to hear what all of these terms are going on in the back end that your regular consumer is not even aware that they're doing, or they're measuring levels like that, or that they're even
I
looking
had
at
no
it as
idea. That's crazy.
introspectively like that.
Yep.
Very interesting. Thank
Yep.
you for that.
Yep. And we, we pull up the numbers for anything else.
Is that majority of your cases? Sonia, do you see a lot of like marijuana cases? Or not so much going from when you started?
The amount of marijuana, quote unquote, marijuana accusations now. And so I have traditionally represented parents when they are accused, for example, in a private family proceeding of being a drug addict because they consumed, marijuana. 10 years ago, that was a constant, regular thing. It is not so much regular now. No. Your typical person will talk about marijuana in passing now. It really has
so you're
changed.
seeing some progress.
Oh yeah. That your typical person is not doing the accusations, and whenever somebody is hard on an accusation of marijuana, it's typically because that person is also doing other things. It's not just, they're smoking marijuana every day. It's like they're smoking marijuana every day, and they're also doing cocaine every day, and they're also
doing all the things.
And they're also, selling fentanyl and whatever. It's not. It's not.
Right.
It's not a typical accusation anymore. Nope, not at all. So no, absolutely, it's changed in society in Arizona the past 20 years for sure.
Did you face any stigma with your colleagues?
I have colleagues now who may not necessarily know I consume, in the sense that I've had colleagues make jokes about it. Like I'll be sitting at a lunch and
they must not know, or they wouldn't have made that untasteful joke.
Yeah. So I've had that, and I'll just kind of laugh like, And if I feel like I want to bring it up, then I'll bring it up. If I feel like I don't want to bring it up, I won't bring it up. But I've actually had colleagues. I've had a number of colleagues come up to me at, for example, legal conventions. I've had this happen more than once. Someone comes up to me, hey, excuse me, could I talk to you for a couple minutes? Here's the thing. I heard you know a lot about marijuana, and I'm also a medical marijuana patient. And they get all quiet and,
It's always the whisper.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
That's
so you're the loud and proud one where they feel comfortable to come to you and kind of get some guidance on how they can navigate their careers and also be a safe consumer.
Absolutely. I've had that happen more than once. And I've, at legal conventions, if we're speaking on it, we have a, educational panel on it. I kind of, in a joking kind of way, but also serious, I make it clear I'm a consumer, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm not there bagging on the like, ha ha, rah rah, free the weed type thing. But, I'm also saying like, yep, all right, if anybody wants to join me for lunch.
Right. Your kids and how they kind of perceive your cannabis use, because it sounds like it's been part of their whole lives, as you've been kind of talking about, but, your experience as a young mom and using cannabis that way. What is their perception of cannabis and your involvement? And like, do they think it's cooler now that you're a lawyer, or that you can roll a joint? Like your kids are grown now. So are they like, mom's cool for smoking weed or what?
Two adult kids now. And with the one who's much older, I hid it from her for a long time because I had to. Don't get me wrong. I'm again, safe and responsible, but the younger one, a little bit more open with her. You know what I mean? Like, for example, the edibles had to go in the fridge. They had to go somewhere. I needed to refrigerate my edibles, but just, you don't touch this brownie, you don't eat this cookie, and on this shelf, type, even have little signs and everything.
Stay away.
Stay away.
And do not take my cookie.
Sometimes I just tell Ariana it's medicated, so she will stay away. I lie. I'm all, that's medicated. Don't eat the last one of that.
You're like, there's 8 pieces of chocolate in this. I know. I counted.
She's like, damn, is everything medicated in here? I'm like, yep. Don't want you eating shit.
Exactly. So I think they grew up a little different. One didn't see it as much, and then now it's like, oh, wow. I will tell you, one appreciates cannabis, the other one doesn't at all.
Yeah. In her adult now age, she obviously knows mom's been using cannabis. So.
Neither of them have a problem with it because they know that I am safe and responsible. Although, don't get me wrong, there's definitely been a few family parties where, me and my brother go out to the back and smoke, and I got to take a little snappy nappy afterwards. Everybody's watching the Christmas cartoons, and I'm like,
and they know why you're asleep.
and they know why I'm asleep, and it's all good.
Have you ever gotten to consume with your daughter, your adult daughter that is now consuming cannabis?
Nope, actually, no.
No. Oh, wow. Okay, so it's not a mother-daughter bonding moment.
Not a mother-daughter
Not
choice,
yet.
Sonia?
That could happen in the future. Maybe Thanksgiving.
It could happen in the future. It just, that's just the way it is.
Interesting.
Everybody's a little different. I don't even know if I've had alcohol really with
either of your children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, with my younger one in Canada, 'cause she was legally, allowed to in Canada, but that's about it.
Yeah. Interesting. That's so
it's
fun.
just a dynamic.
Yeah, right. And I think
works.
it's so interesting how when we are open and honest with our kids, how almost like they're not even interested in it. Like they're so unfazed by it. Like that's how my little one is like, who cares? Like she really could care less that I'm doing even involved with cannabis, or she actually thinks it's like annoying. Like she's like, I'm tired of hearing about cannabis.
Right. So you had one, like me, you had one daughter
Yeah.
that appreciated it, the other one not so much.
Yeah.
They're individual too. And it kind of flies in the face of the allegations of the parent used it and it's gonna be a whole drug family, or just stupid shit like that. All the serious silly negative stereotypes that just don't exist and don't really
No, it's
happen.
all situational.
And you know what was even funny this last week? Somebody asked Ariana what her mom did at work for work, and she told them I was a hand model. I was like, oh, that's a new one.
A hand model.
She's like, I just didn't want to tell them cannabis marketing consultant, That was just doing too much.
Wait, did you
I
ask
was
her
like,
why?
Why did you want to tell them about the cannabis? I was like, you could have just said marketing consultant. She's like, no, I just told them hand model. It's like, where'd you get hand model?
You do have nice hands.
Well, there was one photo.
It'd be your own
photo of me, and I was like, I showed her. It was like on Instagram or something. I was like, oh, that's mom's hand. Like somebody had used the photo. I don't know. She
like, Mommy gets paid
she
to show
exaggerated
hands.
it, but I was like, wow, she's ashamed of what I do.
Oh, love it.
Okay.
I love it. But even the grandkids, though. I got the grandkids.
Yeah,
and even the
that's
grandkids.
true.
Like, one time my granddaughter's like, you're going to go outside again?
How cute.
Again?
You're like, yeah, I'm watching you all weekend.
Do you get also like the you stink? Like you reek like cannabis?
I've been pretty good. I actually generally don't reek like cannabis, but I've definitely gotten again.
Yeah.
From the kids, I get that sometimes. I'm like, you smell like cannabis.
Yeah. Ariana tells
Go
me that.
over
She was
there.
like, ew, I can smell the cannabis on you. I'm like, oh, please.
I'm like, good, because it's good.
Well, that was some good shit then.
How can parents best navigate discussions about cannabis with their kids?
I think the first thing is age appropriateness, right? Speaking to your child depending on their age and what they need to know and how they need to know it. When you're dealing with an older teen, especially an older teen that you may think is curious, that's a very different conversation,
Right.
Because that's an older teen who, quite frankly, may be getting in your edibles. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to approach it? Are you going to then let them? Are you going to notice that your bag is half empty and not say anything to them, or do you say something to them? What do you tell the 7-year-old? Like I have a 7-year-old grandchild, so what do I tell the 7-year-old? Nothing on the shelf is for you. Can't even touch it. You can't be next to it. Don't even try.
Don't even look at it.
This is grandma's medicine.
Right.
Period.
It'll make you sick if you take it. That's what I used to tell Ariana when she was little, And she's like, but how come it makes Yazzie better? I'm like, it just works like that. If you're sick, it fixes you. But if you're already healthy, it makes you sick. She's like, oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. But to have those conversations, if you need to have them. So if you're going to put edibles in the fridge, all right, here's what I'm doing. Here's why I'm doing it. Here's how,
Being
stay away.
proactive.
Yeah. Because otherwise I still personally think it's best to keep bongs and pipes and paraphernalia put away, and that those things not necessarily be on display. I mean, if you want to be the parent, like, hey, it's all good. Fine,
Right.
cool. I'm personally just of the opinion stuff goes away.
Right.
It
Except
goes
for
somewhere where you need to put
shout
it.
out one brand. It's called My Bud Vase, and they make these beautiful bud like bongs that look like art pieces, like they're
Nice.
vases.
You won't know until
keep
You can
those
put your
out.
plants in them. Like, it's very, you don't know it's a bong.
Don't keep those out. Now, I have no kids at home anymore, so do I have 4 bongs lined up on my bookshelf in my living room? Yes.
She's like, how big are we going tonight? How hard was the day?
That's pretty much how they're lined
How
up.
did my clients wage
I
out?
love that.
That's exactly how they're lined up.
Do you tell yourself that if you had a long day like that in court,
It's gonna be a
Sonia,
big
the
wrong
bigger
rip.
the doink, the bigger the day it was?
That's basically how it works. Yep. I'm like, I need the 2-footer.
Yeah. I feel that.
This little handheld could stay in its box.
Right.
'cause it
Fuck
ain't-
the pipe tonight. I'm getting the big bong out. Yeah.
Yes.
One of those kind of nights. Yeah.
What is your favorite way to consume? Are you a joint, a doobie? Are you?
I'm a
blunt?
bong smoker. I've always been a bong smoker. I've been a bong smoker quite frankly, this entire time.
Yeah.
Yep. So
I like a good bong too.
I just love the bong. I love the water bong. And I use Moose Lab filters. It's a company. Where's that place out of? I don't know.
Moose Labs.
But you put a little silicone top on top of your bong, and then you put the little filter in the middle, and you know what's interesting? I could tell how dirty weed is depending on how quickly I have to change that filter.
Oh wow.
I'm like, ooh, 5 hits later, I have to change the filter already.
Ooh,
I am
dirty
not buying this
weed.
weed again.
Right. For real though.
That's funny that you mentioned that, because what do you see for the foreseeable future for the cannabis community in the next 5 years?
I think we're going to see just products in a whole bunch of far more different forms. I mean, come on, we've seen so many forms already, including the inhalers. Do we even have those anymore? Remember those when they had those little
The
THC
sprinkle?
inhalers?
They didn't make it, but it was a cool concept. I feel like there
remember
was
that.
a time when it was very, focused on innovation and new ways of consuming. Now it just feels like it's all about trying to get your product out to as many people and be recognized so you can be a national, brand eventually. It's very becoming corporate.
But you have to be innovative to keep. That's true with any industry. You can't just keep producing the same
Stagnant.
stuff.
Right.
You have to create something new and different, like you said, the nice new bongs,
Right.
the this and that. So I still think we're going to come out with a whole bunch of new products. There's so many strains you could create. I think we're going to have the same strains, but a lot of different names. So
They just call it new shit.
yeah, basically. Basically.
Same farm.
Just kidding. I love our growers.
That's about it, but just new and different products to get consumers to be a little bit more comfortable with it. Like you said, with the topicals, a lot of people are
Right.
introduced with topicals. Like easy.
I have
easy
a
start.
random question. I don't know if this is a good time to just throw it out there.
Yes.
I have a curious question about how is it like being a cannabis mom, single mom, and maybe dating? And do you find that cannabis comes up early on in those dates? And how do you navigate that? Because you being a professional badass, I'm sure it's already hard to find somebody that even measures up, But then you have this awesome interaction. Maybe they're successful and it's oh, and then you hate cannabis. What the fuck? You know what I mean? That could be a huge.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm curious
So
too,
this tell us how you're navigating that one.
So this is the answer from a woman in her late 40s. See, it's a little different, right? Than if your age, which I know you're much younger than me, and you are, Lee, as well. So in your late 40s, here's what I think: the typical man who's in his late 40s probably consumes or doesn't consume, and that's really what I get from a lot of the responses from men. They're either consumers and okay with it, and I'll be quite frank, not as many as I would like to are, or they just don't consume, and they're not a fan of it, and they'll say oh, as long as it's not at my house, or as long as it's not around me. But I think that's just because of their age, and that's the age I'm looking for, right? The late 40s.
Right.
Either your typical person doesn't automatically oh, I'm 46. I just smoke. I'm gonna start smoking weed now.
Right.
I mean, don't get me. Is that possible? Yes, but I'm typically meeting men who generally don't smoke. So I'd love to meet someone who actually does consume and is okay with it. And
He's out
and
there.
everything else. So like you said, because
Canna daddy.
Canna daddy,
The Canna daddies.
the Canna daddies, Canna kings, because you're right.
Come
it
on,
is not
Canna
easy.
king. You don't gotta be a daddy.
And like I said, you don't got to financially support me. I'm already financially
Hey,
set.
now
I'm just
youngins,
saying.
here we go. Let's go.
I ain't supporting you though. I ain't supporting you one goddamn
She's not
bit.
a Canna
I'm just
mommy,
saying.
sugar mommy.
I'm
She's
just
just a
saying.
Canna mommy.
I'm just saying.
Because
I'd
it would be
prefer
something
somebody
kind
who
of cool to
consumes,
be able to share that with somebody, right?
I agree. That's something I was
because
looking
the
forward to.
non-consumer, I'm not going to kid you. I've gone out with a few non-consumers, and it gets a little weird.
Yeah.
It gets boring.
And I feel like there's a sense of judgment too. They're oh, you're gonna go use that. Bro,
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
using my medicine. Chill the fuck out. That would totally get on my nerves.
Yeah.
Especially that you do this like you've worked in the sector of like advocating for cannabis laws. Like I just feel like it's more than just like you use cannabis. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so I feel like somebody that's going to really align with you has to almost kind of share that passion a little bit, or like at least understand it in a different way. You
Absolutely.
know? So
Yep.
yeah, we're going to be
hit me up.
manifesting that for you.
Yeah, Sonia, next episode you come. You're
Right.
like,
Actually, I heard of somebody doing like a cannabis dating site, and it was supposed to be like to connect cannabis consumers with each other. And so you had the option of either being like, I'm interested in dating or just networking, but it was like a networking meeting people kind of site. So I'm like, I'll have to figure out what that app was and send it to you. So
Yeah, I'm sure there was.
Yeah.
I think there was one time, and realistically, I'm just upfront, right away. Like, so what do you like to do at night?
Yeah, don't waste
Well,
time.
I like to smoke my bong and do puzzles. What about you?
I love you. I love that. I like to smoke my weed. And
I'd
just
be
do
like,
puzzles.
look me up first, and then we'll talk. Like the marijuana mama, what the fuck? If that scares you, we're good, right?
No, I remember
Google my name. You should tell them, and then after they see all the advocacy you've done, it's like, oh, never.
No, yeah, I've gotten that response. Hey, I looked you up, and why do you have so much stuff about weed?
Yeah.
And I was like, did you see that case that I did on same-sex marriage? Or did you see that, that matter that I dealt with, the Superfund chemical site? Oh, you just saw the weed stuff. Well, here's this link.
I love that. You just send over links.
Read over how I handled this one.
Right. That's crazy. But that shows how judgmental they were, and like that hyper focused on it, and it bothered them enough to be like, yo, what's this all about? Like in a negative way.
Which is why, I got to go to these events where I see you ladies at. Like I saw you at the Green Farms event. I'm like, all right, let me see.
Yeah.
Got my head up, my eyes up.
Yes. It's all about going out and networking and getting out of the house. It's hard to manifest things that we want when we're home. So we got to get out there and experience life a little bit more. I tend to be a homebody.
I have been thinking now about like going to events that are not so cannabis focused, because I feel like that's where true change starts to take place.
Or how you can influence some change, because maybe people's perceptions are different, and there may be an opportunity to change somebody's mind. I feel that from an advocacy standpoint, because you do feel like at some point you're just preaching to the choir.
Yeah, you just do it anywhere. Like, so for example, I went to the bank recently, and the teller goes, oh, so what are you doing later today? And I said, oh, I'm finishing up my infused olive oils. She's like, infused olive oils? What are you infusing with? I'm like, THC. Oh, but just very natural. Like,
I love it.
It's just another night. It's just another night.
Right.
You make olive oil. I'm making this really good feta, like sun-dried tomato olive oil.
And it's
You're
so
normalizing
much better
the use.
Yeah,
right?
I love that. I love that.
So an everyday conversation. You don't have
Look
to
at you. You are probably creating some ripple effect in so many people that you don't even know. Like you definitely impacted me in a huge way. So I thank you for that, Sonia, so much.
Oh,
Genuinely.
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And
thank you.
talk about times changing, just kind of thinking about this. We talked about Mom's Force, and last time we met, we were talking about Kathy Inman, because I remember before I even came out seeing Kathy Inman speak. But Kathy's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, very conservative look, and her approach is very conservative, very J. Crew, very And I just remember thinking that when she would speak in public about her cannabis use, I remember thinking, but she's blonde hair and blue-eyed. I can't get away with that stuff,
right?
And then I was like, no, yes, I can. And so I love that it's just like a ripple and rave from education and being out there and speaking up and being able to listen as well, to listen to other people and understand where they're coming from, to better understand, oh, shoot, okay, I get it.
So amazing.
Here's where I'm coming from. Wow, that's a good way of putting it. So
it is really a ripple effect, because I was telling P that the way that she looked at you, I looked at her the same way when I was in Texas. So she was the reason as to why I was so loud and proud about it as well, because I was like, if she can do it, I can do it too. It's so amazing to see how ripple effects like that amongst us women is
just
really
shout
making
out
a change.
Kathy Inman for being the top of the ripple effect, right?
It keeps going.
I love
keeps
her
going.
so much. That's so true. She just really had such a great way of composing herself and talking about cannabis. And she was what connected me to you.
Who
and
is
to the
she
whole
for
Mom
people that
Force
don't
group.
know?
So Kathy Edmond, she's up north now. She's in the Camp Verde area, and she just she taught a lot of community colleges. Her focus was education, particular for elders and seniors, and them having an understanding how cannabis could be useful to their medical needs. So her focus was a lot on education. Again, the elders, but teaching our community classes all across the valley. She was big on the medical marijuana use, big on medical marijuana.
And I have to
use.
say, they used, Kathy's voice and advocacy quite a bit in helping shape the, things here
Yep.
in Arizona and Mom Force. And Mom Force was the first organization that I found as a parent giving my child cannabis. I was like, where do I go? Because there was really nothing. And somebody told me, oh, Mom Force, Kathy Inman. I'm like, okay, I'll go Google her. And I found her and I reached out, and she immediately introduced me to Sonia and to Lisa, a school teacher. And it was just really amazing to see these other women in other walks of life that were professional and so well spoken. And I think they used all of our voices for like one of the props for the recreational use. We were at a commercial. I'm a mom and I'm voting yes. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Oh my
Yes, I
God.
do.
That
And we
is
went to all
so
these press
cool.
conferences and stuff and would talk, so it was really cool to be part
amazing.
of something that was so meaningful then. I feel like advocacy really meant something then because we didn't have access and we weren't so lucky and blessed as we are now. Although the program is not perfect and it isn't everything, but we are so much more advanced than we were when I first met you like 8 years ago or 9 years ago. It's like crazy how much it's progressed. So.
Absolutely. You've been part of that progression, talking about the ripple effect that it's come back full circle, because it's the stuff I've seen you do, Parisa, with the Marijuana Mama and the blunt brunches and all the different things you do. I'm like, look at Parisa go. She made what she was doing already, marketing. And that's what I did as well. I used my legal profession, an already existing career like you did, and just then connected it with cannabis. And, you did it at full force, kept up with the tides, and, continuing to create the ripple effect. Just like Arlie, I'm sure there are
So many
hundreds of
women
others like
looking up
Arlie
to
who are
you.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, just so let's continue to have these conversations and talk and educate.
It makes a difference,
and,
truly,
all
to
that.
empower other women and to just speak your truth.
And I love having women from different walks of life, different cultural backgrounds. That's another thing that I am also so impressed with you, Sonia, speaking out for, not only your Hispanic side, but also your Native American side. You carry both cultures with you, very strong, to your upbringing and
roots.
the way that you conduct yourself now, focusing on cultural, legal issues and that and whatnot. So
And
I
trying to
just
get
think
tribes to understand all that stuff too, so that
Right.
tribes could,
make some money and not just lose it, because they don't have their own dispensaries and stuff yet. So
and heal some of their own communities in different
Right.
ways. Because as we
Right.
talked about a little bit, it's been a gateway drug, a gateway product to get you off of drugs.
Right.
I've known people to use it to get off of alcoholism, to get off of opioids, things like that. It's just
Right.
it's amazing how helpful it could be. But the one thing I think I've learned is it's not for everybody.
right.
But at the same time, I think we need to break down the stereotypes, because even if it's not for you,
You don't have to use cannabis to support.
to support it.
Right. Right.
Ding
So,
dong.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly
it's
my
so
point.
true. It's so true. And I completely agree, because many times we do face people that are like, well, I don't use it. I don't understand it. Well, I'm like, you don't have to
Right.
understand something to respect it or to just,
Right.
be okay with it.
Right.
If it's not affecting you or if that person is not affecting anybody or themselves,
I think that's just
why do you care so much? Slowly but surely.
And we're going
it's good to
backwards
know.
in some. I don't know what's happening in the world right now.
Going
but
backwards
yeah.
in some, but we're going full throttle in force in others. I remember going to a year ago a cannabis cafe in Barcelona, and the amount of amazing marijuana they had, but also they broke down the different types of CB whatever, and there were
Wow,
CBs that
all
I
the
hadn't even heard of,
cannabinoids? Oh,
CBRs and
wow.
CB,
CBNs
all sorts of
Wow.
cannabinoids that I had not even heard of, and the breaking down. They really, at least in Barcelona, they really figured out cannabis.
That's amazing. I need to have Spain on my go-to list then for traveling because I want to go places that have cannabis in a more advanced way, so we can kind of learn.
Beautifully advanced. Beautifully
So
advanced. And those
that's
cafes are funny.
awesome.
Funny story. I walk in and you could rent an instrument to consume with, right? I'm like, hey,
An instrument? That's cute to
like,
call it that.
right,
I was like,
so,
what are we playing? Violin?
Paraphernalia.
I like the bong, please. The 1 foot bong.
The pink one.
And then the guy goes, "You're American, huh?"
Why? What do they call it over there?
Well, they're big on spliffs in Europe. They like
they
the
just
big,
don't
the
do
big,
bongs.
They don't do bongs. They like smoking the big fat joints that are mixed with nicotine.
Oh, they like
tobacco.
blunts.
Love the
See,
They like the blunts, the
I love
spliffs.
I
you
smoked
know?
a spliff in New York, and I figured out over there that they love spliffs over there too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's
They'll
the
sprinkle
American.
some tobacco
Uh-huh,
on
yeah.
the
Yeah.
joint.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I can't do all that.
Yeah, no, that
That'll
is a
fuck me
very
up. It's a vibe.
European thing. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I guess bongs are American things.
Yeah.
It's so funny to see how in different countries, in some it has really like they have a whole system. It's fully evolved, and in some not so much.
You can still get arrested and spend potential years, just like the female basketball player that we had. Stuck in
Brittany
Russia
Griner.
for a freaking
Right.
one
Right.
cartridge.
That was crazy.
A $35 full gram cartridge.
It's just crazy.
What do you
And
see
would-
for that, Sonia? Do you see it changing like legally in the U.S., like a descheduling or?
Yeah, we're getting there. We're absolutely getting there. There's already descheduling, on rescheduling on the comments. I think the comment period is closed. They're already going to be rescheduling. There's going to be rescheduling. There's going to be a lot of FDA issues.
Big pharma.
There's going to be big pharma. Absolutely. I say, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm pretty sure Amazon delivery is going to be the very
Yes.
first weed delivery service,
Yes.
commercial delivery service out there. It's going to be Amazon.
Literally,
Wow.
they're segueing into medical. Have you noticed that now? You can do medical.
Why do you think
They have doctor visits you
I
can do
don't-
now. You
I
can get your
don't-
prescriptions through Amazon. They're doing it so they can carry
I'm
weed.
pretty-
I know it.
I'm-
I know. And
that's-
follow the
yeah.
dollars. They're
Yeah.
also advocating for
not-
federal
they're
use.
not stupid.
Yeah,
They're not stupid.
it's just
That
like
guy knows what he's
Walmart
doing.
and Amazon
They're
are going to be the
lobbying for
first
it.
to
Oh, yeah.
deliver that shit
Yeah, it's like
straight to your door, 2
Yeah.
hours or less.
for sure. Like,
And guess who will be using it? Because I'm a Prime member.
heck yeah, free delivery for
Sorry,
sure.
guys.
You know,
It's just too convenient.
and it's going to be like the
Shit.
past 35 years has
Yeah.
been. Nobody really knows the law. There's a bunch of gray areas, and people just do whatever the hell they want to do anyway, basically. Unless you're really stupid about something, you're going to get away with it.
One thing I think isn't going to go out of fashion, having your own drug dealer, like your own weed man.
Your
like,
own farmer.
Yeah, like there's always going to be a need for a local person that's like a boutique grower. Like you can buy your Budweiser on Amazon, but where are you going to get your like, IPAs, like
We need to grow
your
ourselves more.
custom, you know what I'm saying, stuff. Like
There's always going to be the home growers.
Yeah.
There's but it's kind of like beer. I have friends that brew their own beer. They brew their own goddamn
Yeah.
beer.
Do you think it'll go towards like where beer is at now, where you can do a whole carnival, you can do a fair, and
That would be
have
so cool.
beer and with
Absolutely.
kids?
I
Do you
would
think we'll
love
ever get
that.
there with cannabis?
Oh, we're definitely going to get there again, slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Poli Sci says slowly but surely.
And
we will get there.
especially
Yep.
if alcohol makes you crazy and weed makes you calm and more
I think it's the
present
smoke,
with your
though.
child. Maybe it could be like edible things.
It would, or like a spritzer.
Yeah,
more-
like drinks. I think
Yeah.
cannabis drinks are the future.
Yeah,
You're going to see a lot more of that.
I agree, P.
I see
Yeah.
those all everywhere.
Yeah, I don't like them though. I'm not really a big fan. I'm just like to smoke. I don't know.
Me too.
The edibles
we all
just
have our
fuck me up.
preferences. We all have our preferences.
I don't want to be out of control, so I got to stick with my smoking. But yeah.
Well, thank you, Sonia. This has been, oh my God, so informative, so amazing.
It's been fun.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you
Love
so
hanging out
much.
with
So
you
many good
ladies.
nuggets
You're
to give to our audience.
amazing. You're just such you're an idol.
You're an inspiration.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much for the kind words. But we work as a team together and doing the individual things that we do to promote the safe and responsible use, to educate others, to break down stigmas, and to have people understand that it's okay to use it. It's okay to not use it. Not for
Right.
everybody, but when you do, be safe, responsible, have fun, enjoy.
And what you told me at the Green Farms event, your doctor smokes, your lawyer smokes,
Yes,
your
folks.
teacher
That's
smokes.
so cool. Can you tell our viewers where they could connect with you and in what ways? Like if they want to reach out for legal advice or, counseling.
Yeah.
How can they reach you?
I have my little office in Mesa, Arizona. I've been out in Mesa for about the past 10 years now, previously in Gilbert. But Mesa, Arizona. So the law office is Sonia Martinez. I have a website. I have a Facebook page. Just Google, Sonia Martinez lawyer, and you will see just every
She'll pop up.
Everything will pop up for you. I offer free initial phone consultations for everybody. So whether you have a criminal or a family matter, you just want to chat, just give my office a call and I could set you up for a free consultation. And I always give very direct, real advice. I don't beat around the bush and tell you shit that you want to hear.
I can tell you that firsthand. Sonia's helped me a few times. I'm like, well, damn. She's like, girl, it's not even worth it. It's going to cost you more to have, pay me to help you with this stuff. I'm like, okay, I'll leave that alone.
and
or she'll be like, girl, I don't know. You should have did this and that different. I'm like, ooh, no.
Well, let's talk about how to move forward. So, moving forward, I move forward in the most gracious, safest, responsible way, but also in a way where I could still have fun and be a child, be childlike and enjoy. So, and I think cannabis creates a lot of that and helps bring a lot of that out, So, I'm gonna still use because I love it, and maybe one day I won't, but I'm not sure that day will ever come.
I tell everybody the same thing. I'm not sure if that day will ever come, but
I know. I wonder if it ever will for me either. I'm like, it'll be different.
Day
but
by
you
day.
just go with it. Yeah.
Important to educate, and the fact that you two ladies are educating and providing this forum for people that need to hear this, because I am sure even today in 2024, there are people that are in the closet that don't want to say anything, that are afraid, that are hiding, and it's okay to be you.
Yeah.
So, thank
I
you,
love
ladies,
that
for letting them.
message. Thank you so much, Sonia. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you so much for being so awesome and being our guest today.
Thank you, ladies. Peace out.
So informative.